Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the problem with headphone adapters, and honestly, there are a lot of problems. For example, why do we even need to have headphone adapters in the first place, especially because phones really are not super thin anymore. I feel like every phone manufacturer could just put headphone jacks back on their phones if they wanted to. It's really not that hard to implement, but they just choose not to because Apple decided a few fucking years ago that, oh, we're just not going to put headphone adapters on our phones anymore. So every other phone company now has to follow suit, and it leads to this whole fucking rigmarole where you have to get stupid ass adapters that break after like a month of using them. Because I'm not joking when I say that every single headphone adapter I've used, even ones from reputable brands such as Anchor and Apple, have broken after like 5 months tops. And it's just driving me crazy because I feel like USB-C cables just generally will last longer when not having to go through this stupid ass adapter bullshit, which is why I am switching to USB-C cables for my IEMs, because as I said, I feel like they will just last longer. Feel free to correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong about this, but I just generally think that they won't bend as harshly as these adapters do, which causes them to have this sort of like weird garble noise on some of my IEMs, on some of my adapters whenever I bend them a certain way, because again, they bend pretty harshly and bend very easily, which I don't like. And I feel like these cables don't bend as easily, so I feel like they'll just last longer. But also just generally, I feel like even USB-C cables, even ones from like cheap IEMs, just are built better and also don't have to go through an adapter and just get to your phone through that way. So I just feel like, again, it's better. It will last longer, at least from my experience. I feel like every time I've used a cable of any kind and I've just plugged it in to an audio source, it's just worked, and most of the time it just lasts for like years and years and years. Like, this includes like headphone cables, just anything that's plugged in at all, just straight up raw without having to go through an adapter. I feel like those will just last longer. Again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about this, and if you do have a DSP cable that worked and then broke after like a few months, please like comment that down below, because maybe again I could be like horribly wrong about this, but again, I just feel like they just last longer. They will just last longer than these dinky ass headphone adapters that are just kind of built to die in like a month, which I feel like has happened way, way, way too often. Which is why, again, I feel like it's just more convenient at this point to just go with a USB-C cable or a DSP cable for your IEMs, because again, just having an adapter in the first place sucks and having to carry that around. But also just generally, most of these adapters will just break, at least in my experience, after using them for even like more or less than like a month, which is insane to think about. But for example, like, again, even from reputable brands such as like Apple and Anchor, those have broken, I think, in like 4 months tops. And then after that, they started having like weird popping issues or cutout issues, or just generally just having this sort of weird garbled noise whenever you bend them a certain way. Because again, I feel like these are just not built to last compared to actual IEM cables that won't have this nearly as like strong of a bend when you're putting them like a certain way on your lap or whatever. And just generally, I feel like they'll just last a little longer because they're not having to go through an adapter, which just aren't built that well, and again, bend easily. I'm repeating myself constantly, but you get the point. Again, if I'm wrong about this, feel free to comment down below. I might be factually wrong about this, and I just don't know, and I'm spewing nonsense. But again, I just feel like from my experience, just straight up normal cables just last longer than a cable having to go through an adapter, and just generally, it sucks that adapters have to be used in the first place, because headphone jack should just be on everything. Absolutely everything. I don't care if the 3.5 millimeter adapter isn't like the best thing ever, and 4.4 is maybe a little bit better or whatever the fuck. Just put it on phones. They need to be on phones, especially if they're going to be a portable music player like a lot of them are that still don't have a fucking 3.5 millimeter jack. But I know I've harped about this a lot in the past as well with headphone jacks, but I still fucking bring them back, man. It's annoying not having them on phones. So, yeah, that is basically going to be it. Again, I'm repeating myself constantly, but you get the point. Again, Feel free to correct me because again, I can be factually wrong about this. Maybe DSP cables or USB-C cables that are connected to an IEM just don't last as long or just last the same amount as these USB-C cables, or not cables, but headphone adapters. They might, I don't know. But again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about this. But again, at least from my experience, I feel like just regular ass cables will just last a lot longer than these dumbass adapters, which have all failed on me, or just all just don't work in some way or another, and are just really annoying to work with. So yeah, that is basically going to be it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.